Today, let's dive in more about what Trump has said about income taxes, and here's a hint. He doesn't like them very much, and we don't either as Americans. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Who wants to keep paying federal income taxes for the rest of your life? Without any further, let's dive right into it. Trump said in a meeting with GOP lawmakers at the Capitol Hill Club in June, Trump suggested that if he is elected president in November, he will do away with federal income taxes entirely and replace them with what is known as a tariff policy. This would be a complete paradigm shift for the taxation policy that we currently have in America. I'm going to break down exactly what this would mean so that you have a better idea ahead of time in case Trump does become our president again, and we're looking at a major tax overhaul. If this does end up happening, we could be saving a massive amount of money in taxes, and you know I'm here for it. So first things first. What are tariffs? A tariff is a tax that is imposed by one country on the goods or services imported by another country. So to understand how this works, let's look at a little example here. Tariff example number 1. The United States wants to generate more tax revenue while relieving tax burden for its citizens. So it decides to put a 3% tariff on automobiles imported from other countries. So a car deal in America that would normally sell a brand new Maserati imported from Italy for $100,000 would have to sell it for $103,000. This gives the extra $3,000 to the US government. So when tariffs are put into place, certain foreign goods that are imported into the United States become more expensive. What does that mean? Are tariffs good or bad? When Trump mentioned this tax change, many people are wondering whether it's beneficial or detrimental. Let's discuss this so you can kind of form your own opinion. If people don't have to pay federal income taxes anymore, this would eliminate an incredible amount of paperwork, stress, and headaches related to tax preparation and compliance. This would mean fewer tax forms to file, fewer receipts to keep track of, fewer barriers to entry from accounting perspectives for people trying to set up new businesses. The list just goes on and on. Think about it, just imagine not having to file federal income taxes. All that time, energy, and money that is spent compiling all those federal tax documents to stay in compliance with federal tax law can now be spent just making more money. The other side to this is that the price of many goods in America, they would rise, and it's already felt like it's been rising. Have you felt the heat of inflation lately? It's been absolutely absurd. If you're in the middle or lower income household, you're struggling right now to afford the price of goods and services like clothing, vehicle, machinery, food, and more. If you're someone who is leaning towards this argument, just remember that even if prices for imported goods go up, federal income tax burdens would still drop to zero, and when it comes to many types of goods, there's often an American supplier that would not have a tariff placed on it. This is another reason why Trump values tariffs. Placing tariffs on imported goods makes American-produced goods, it's more competitive in the marketplace. For this reason, a tariff-based tax policy is often referred to as a protection approach. America's history with tariffs. It might also interest you. Tariffs have been a major part of American history, in fact prior to 1913 when the modern-day income tax was established. Tariffs was one of the many ways that the federal government was funded. Many of Americans' early politicians viewed tariffs as a viable way to fund the federal government without having to place a federal income tax on the American people and siphoning money out of everybody's paychecks. Federal income taxes were levied during emergency situations such as the Civil War. However, for the most part, funding for the federal government came from tariffs and excise taxes, and things such as like tobacco and alcohol sales. This is how America operated for 14 decades. So even though using tariffs as a primary way to fund federal governments seems like a completely radical idea for many people in today's day and age, this is how our founding fathers ran things back then. Will it work? This approach could work, but at this time it's unclear whether Trump will even win the presidential election, only if you vote for Trump on this November 5th. During his presidency, President Trump successfully imposed tariffs or imposed steel, aluminum, and certain other goods that resulted in tens of billions of dollars of additional revenue for the US federal government. He did have some wins while he was in office. Trump likes tariffs because he feels that Americans should come first when it comes to building wealth in America and opportunity. Tariffs are a way to exert influence without having to resort to military violence. Trump will use tariffs in his second presidency just like he did during his first presidency if he wins. What do tariffs mean for us? What does all this mean for you and I? If a switch does end up happening to an all-tariff, no federal income tax policy, then it will dramatically affect the finances of nearly every tax-paying American in the United States. We would no longer have to worry about the IRS. This alone would be a blessing for millions of Americans and myself. What other tax changes can we expect? The first time that Trump was in office, Trump's administration brought about sweeping changes to the tax code that were mostly laid out in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, also known as the TCJA. But within this bill there were a number of major tax cuts such as the reduction of the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. The TCJA also slashed federal income tax rates for individuals, and many of the provisions in the TCJA are set to expire in 2025, like bonus depreciation. If Trump does get into office, it is likely that he could extend the TCJA, or results in significant tax cuts. Trump's view towards taxation in America is mostly been that it is too high and he wants to lower it, and he doesn't really see a need for it. This is one of the main reasons why Trump is loved by many people throughout the nation, who feel that taxes are just too high. The lower the tax rates are, the less money that comes out of your paycheck, and the more you get to keep and spend on yourself and your family, and that's what Trump is for. The bottom line is that we have to fund the federal government somehow, but there could be real changes to the federal policy that could come in the form of tariffs that could result in them being funded, and that could be right around the corner if Trump's elected. Trump will get rid of Social Security taxes. Seniors should not pay tax on Social Security. Trump will also take away no taxes on tips. Democrats are talking about raising more taxes if elected in November. Kamala Harris admits and supports raising taxes on 91% of Americans across every income bracket and raising death tax. Raising taxes and increasing government spending will not lead America on a road to recovery. Reducing the $35 trillion national debt will. Democrats wants to hand more of our tax money over to millions of illegal migrants, who they purposefully allowed into our country, and simply to increase their voter base. Using taxpayers' money to live freely day to day, month to month, and now year to year, while Americans suffer through the worst economic period in history. Kamala Harris will raise your taxes. Harris cast the tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, which raised the tax burden on families making as little as $20,000 a year. The Harris-Biden administration's latest budget proposal includes a $4.9 trillion tax hike, the largest in history. Harris will increase the business tax rate to 28%, which the Tax Foundation estimates would kill 128,000 jobs, shrink the economy, and cut wages for low-income Americans. Kamala cast the tie-breaking vote to hire 87,000 new IRS agents, which would lead to an estimated 710,000 new audits of people making less than $75,000 per year. In 2017, Harris voted against the Trump tax cuts that lowered taxes for 80% of Americans. Harris has repeatedly said she would repeal the Trump tax cuts on day one. Democrats are hurting families with taxes and IRS schemes, have no plan to address their energy crisis, have no plan to address their border crisis. GOP's bills are ignored. Ask yourself, do you want to keep paying your hard-working taxes to freeloaders here in America? I want you to let me know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on Trump's proposal? What are your thoughts on everything that's going on? What are your thoughts on if whether or not taxes should be imposed on us? Let me know who you think is going to win the election. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are in the comments below. Educate people by sharing this video, and let's all go out and vote on November 5th, 2024 for President Donald Trump. Thanks for watching.